In this video, guys, I want to do a part 2 to the Bauer Extreme Corded Impact Wrench that I did earlier. In the first video, I talked about how I wanted this to do two things. I wanted this tool to, number one, spin off axle nuts, and number two, spin off suspension component. And in the first video, you saw me spin off the axle nut. So if you haven't seen that video, it's pretty good. So go ahead and take a look. But in this video, I want to focus on that second part, which is the suspension components. So just this weekend, I actually replaced the front struts on our Honda. And that gave me an opportunity to really put this thing to the test. And what I want to do is pull up a picture for you guys. So you can see in the picture, you can see the picture of the new front strut assembly. And you can also see two arrows that are horizontal and one arrow that is vertical. Now, let me talk about the vertical arrow that you see in front of you. That's the tie rod. That's the tie rod bolt. And the main problem with that is when you put a socket on that and you crank it with a breaker bar, what happens is that the inside of the ball joint starts to spin, and so it doesn't undo the bolt, okay? And so the best way to get around that is to use a big air tool, powerful air tool, or something like this Bauer. I put the Bauer on it and spun it off in just like a second, no problem. In addition, you'll also see those horizontal arrows, and those are the strut tower bolts. There's one side that's 19 millimeter, and the other side's 22 millimeter. And the problem with those is that you generally have to have wrenches coming from either end in order to get that to come off. But what I did with the Bauer is what I did is I took the strut assembly and turned it towards me just a little bit, like 20 degrees, and then I put the Bauer on it and spun those suckers off in no time. I intentionally decided to not use any penetrating oil. Normally on a job like this, I would use some penetrating oil, but this thing is so powerful. I said to myself, I'm intentionally not going to use any penetrating oil for either the tie rod bolt or the strut tower bolts. And this thing just performed beautifully. Just spun them off in no time. So I would say that this thing was a complete success. Now, one issue I do have is it is a little on the large side. So it's kind of hard to get into the wheel well sometimes and get to everything you like. So that's one issue on this. But if I could wish one thing about this, I would wish it to be like half its size. If it could be like that, that would be truly awesome. But I know this big 8.5 amp motor, just has to have more space. So that's the only minor issue. I did talk about the Porter cable in the last video. I still think the Porter cable is an excellent tool. I think that they're about even, honestly. The Bauer is a touch more powerful. It is an 8.5 amp motor instead of a 7.5 amp motor. But I think the Porter cable would spin off, everything that I've asked the Bauer to do thus far. I don't think the Porter cable would have any problems. Also, the Porter cable is a little bit cheaper, and the Porter cable comes with a 3-year warranty as opposed to a 3-month or 90-day warranty. I would probably put the Porter cable, which I have links in the description, about equal to this Bauer. Both are very good tools. Both make changing things like suspension components a total breeze. It's just a real pleasure to be able to spin stuff off in no time without air tools, okay? Without having to have a compressor in your garage and all that kind of stuff. Just a real pleasure. Anyway, guys, wanted to give you an update on the Bauer with the suspension components. As kind of a part 2 for you guys. And that's it for this video, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Take care.